All right, so today's story is really bizarre. This is Alice Guo, a mayor in the town of Bamban, Tarlac in the Philippines, who has become a viral topic over her amnesia. So what happened? Well, after she was pulled into questioning in front of lawmakers for being tied to a Chinese scam group, she seems to have forgotten about her past entirely. Listen to this. So she says that, okay, many of her responses were insubstantial. She says she didn't know anything about her childhood. Her birth certificate was registered at 17 years old. She says she was homeschooled by one of teacher Rubelin. Nobody knows who that is. And then she also says that here that she basically didn't know where she was born, claims on her mayoral candidacy paper that she was born in Tarlac. Again, she doesn't remember much of it. It also says that she identifies her father as Filipino Guo, but then later admitted that his real name is actually Zhang Guo. And also the birth certificate of her father, Filipino Guo, seems to have been registered as Filipino, but according to another document, lists him as Chinese national. And then on top of that is her tie to the Chinese crime syndicate in the same area that she became mayor. Did I also mention that she can't remember details about her mother and gave contradicting information? And she also admitted to having a Chinese stepbrother who is based in China, but then she denied having two other siblings who also share the same last name as her. What else? Says here, at a May 7th Senate hearing, Guo said without batting an eyelash, Hindi po kami involved in any POGO operation. Basically, she denies being in those operations. Senator Hontiveros later said that Guo lied before the Joint Committees on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality, etc. So she committed perjury in front of the lawmakers. Amnesia girl. She really doesn't remember much from her past when she is asked, but she seems relatively calm in all those answers, which is very interesting. That's why many people started to think that she's a trained spy from China. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But she's wealthy enough to drive a Rolls Royce, yet she doesn't want to say where her money comes from. Man, if playing dumb could land you a mayor seat, maybe running up for the president ain't all that hard after all. Having designer bags and luxury brand jewelry, honestly, she looks less like a mayor, but more like a socialite who is propped up as this front for a criminal network. Of course, this is just my opinion, my personal opinion. And it turns out she is associated with this local criminal syndicate that's running a cryptogram using gaming as a front, a scam, of course. Now, last year, an offshore gaming operation, POGO as they're called, was raided. They found 160 plus Chinese nationals who are now deported for the illegal scams that they were involved in. Chinese nationals, many forced to work for scammers in another country because, of course, Chinese people screw over Chinese people. But that's not all this gaming scam network does. They also allegedly hacked government websites, provided surveillance, and even human trafficking and detention. Alice Guo is associated to this scam network called Hongshun Gaming Technology Incorporated, which supposedly changed its business name to Zunyuan Technology Incorporated after it was raided for the first time in February of 2023. And then back in 2020, Alice Guo was still a private citizen. She asked the Bambam Municipal Council to allow Hongsheng to operate there. So they started this 8-hectare POGO hub, 36 buildings, which of course was raided again last March over charges of alleged human trafficking, violations of human rights, and serious illegal detention. Now, we know that Chinese scam networks are everywhere. They're rampant in Southeast Asia, particularly among the Golden Triangle countries, so-called Triangle of Thailand, Myanmar, and Laos. But they span across different countries like Cambodia, Philippines, and of course Indonesia. Before we continue, here's a great product for you to boost your alertness and to not be tired throughout the day. This is the Gin-X Red Ginseng Extract. It's made in Canada, and one of the main benefits I've noticed after taking it is how I feel less tired. I'm yawning less throughout the day. Now, some of my friends are also taking this, and they also tell me that they don't drink as many cups of coffee throughout the day because they're less tired, they're not yawning as much. And for people who sit in the office all day, especially in the afternoon, it gets quite tiring. What I do is in the morning, I'll take 2 to 3 drops, and then I just drink some water after. And I notice that I'm actually more alert and I can do more things throughout the day and not have that crash in like the afternoon around 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So if this is something that you think will benefit you, consider trying it out. You can get it from the link in the description at Blueberry Creative's website called Gin-X Red Ginseng Extract. What's interesting about this case, though, is that Alice Guo isn't able to remember anything that any child would still be able to remember. Like, where did you go to elementary school? You shouldn't forget these things, which maybe you've been told many times by your parents, which hospital you were born in, or one of your homeroom teachers, whoever that is. There's no way that she can't remember any of her ties. And of course, that association to the scam group, she also can't remember. This mysterious woman suddenly appeared out of nowhere and ran for mayor in 2022. So correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Philippines, foreign nationals who become citizens can run for office if that is their sole citizenship. But on her official candidacy document for mayor, she indicated that she was born in Tarlac, which of course she didn't recall where she was born. And to me, since I don't speak Tagalog, when I hear her answers, I can't really tell the difference between a Filipino person, Chinese, maybe grew up in the Philippines, or she's just really in tune with the language to learn the accents or not. Whatever the case may be, from that perspective, you can't really tell. But it doesn't mean that the question of her nationality is not so serious, because the precise reason why it's going viral, it's because she can't answer any of her questions about how she became a member of this country and being able to hold a political office. Just imagine, right? You're already in trouble for potentially helping out a Chinese criminal group in the same town that you're now mayor to do all these things that threaten national security, and then you tell your lawmakers that you know nothing about your past. So the question is she a spy? Very possible. However, I think the better answer, alternatively, as to who she is that she is a part of this Chinese scam organization that launders money, that scams local people, including Chinese people in the local area. There's a lot of Chinese people in the Philippines. In the ways in that which they can make a lot of money, of course, for the scams that they run, some of the gaming stuff that they do, of course, like slot machines, casino, launder money for people in China. There's another case that I'll talk about which actually proves this is possibly the case. But of course, then the CCP approached this group to do their biddings. Now, according to Senator Hontiveros, this hub was also being used for surveillance activities. And so, if they're detaining people, even trafficking people, they're likely kidnapping Chinese people, potentially dissidents, or even refugee seekers, political asylum seekers that are running away from the Chinese government. And she said that the hacking of state agency websites was also traceable to this complex tied to that criminal group. And that makes me believe that Alice Guo is the front of this, right? A prime example is that she has money to spend on these luxury items, seemingly having money from out of nowhere, as I mentioned. And the CCP will seek out these criminal groups that already exist, and then, as they have done so in Myanmar, in other countries, to offer them protection, support, in turn ask them to carry out those tasks, like coercing, harassing the local diaspora of Chinese people, establishing power by running for office, spying, you have the cyber crimes, etc. All of these things they're being told to do on behalf of the CCP. So it's very possible she's been part of this type of operation. Now imagine how many similar networks are running across the Philippines, and then imagine across Southeast Asia. The CCP basically views Southeast Asia as their playground, which is to carry out all of the CCP's legal enforcement of, they claim to be the citizens of China in countries like Thailand and Myanmar. It's very common. Recently, ABC Australia aired an investigative piece on their Four Corners program, and the program interviews a former spy for the Public Security Bureau. And within the Public Security Bureau is something called the Political Security Department, which is shortened now called Political Security Bureau, and it's also called the First Bureau of the Ministry of Public Security. So I'll use terms like First Bureau or the Political Security Bureau interchangeably. So according to this former spy, Eric Hui, Thailand is like the CCP's own backyard. His first assignment overseas was in Cambodia and then in Thailand. So here he was tasked to lure a dissident who was a comic artist by the name of Rebel Pepper to Cambodia. Through online chats, first he got Pepper to do some of the works on a contract basis, and then later the Bureau gave basically a way for him to lure Pepper to Cambodia. So what happened was Eric, the former spy, first, the bureau that he worked for secured him a job at the place called Prince Holding Group in Cambodia. So basically, he started to work in this company called Prince Holding. Now, Prince Holding is run by a Chinese man in Cambodia with heavy ties to the Chinese Police Bureau. And the Prince Holdings chairman, he's seen photographs having meetings with the Cambodian prime minister at the time. And Chen Ji, this man is not well known in the Chinese conglomerate circle, but he is rich. He just has a lot of money. Much like a lot of the other sort of typical front man for this type of money laundering case, this guy's suddenly rich, right? He just came out of nowhere, even according to Chinese reports. It just happens that this chairman allows a spy into his company. He wouldn't have allowed that to happen unless he was told to do so. And probably because Chen's own company, Prince Holding, is an operation from the CCP to begin with. To be able to meet the Prime Minister of Cambodia, to have a close relations, he even became the advisor. He became a duke in Cambodia as a Chinese national. So this is not just some regular rich guy. Anyways, there's no way for the big boss of Prince Holding to not know that Eric's mission in Cambodia is to lure a dissident to Cambodia. So it just shows you that they connect all these overseas groups to their spy wing of the CCP. And it's very likely that part of the operation itself is through Prince Holding, through the Chinese police, etc., whatever the case may be. But they were all already in this huge network. And so after Eric got into the subsidiary working for Prince Holding, he started to plan this out, right? So he basically told Rebel Pepper that there's a role of a creative director that he can take up. It's really good pay, and he just has to come to Cambodia for an interview. And at first, Rebel Pepper was like, that's pretty tempted to go, just, it's for an interview. But then Pepper's wife had a sort of gut feeling that this isn't right, so he didn't go, which turned out to be a great thing because otherwise he would have been kidnapped back to China. Now, Prince Holding, again, one of his subsidiaries, does the same thing as the scam network in the Philippines, which Alice Guo is involved in. Amiga Entertainment makes online slot machine games. And according to the investigation by Radio Free Asia, a former employee says Amiga is used for money laundering. So it just shows you that in Southeast Asia, the CCP's infiltration is very severe. And their goal is to use these third-party countries as foreign bases of operation. Part of that is to lure dissidents in, other parts to just basically grab a lot of influence, to build the legal authority in those countries and to do whatever they want. Okay, so afterwards, right, Eric says that he also worked on another dissident in Canada who has since passed away, but his death is very suspicious. Now, according to Eric, the CCP deems someone when they become the problem, that person will no longer enjoy legal protection of the law. In fact, some of the most shocking details in that documentary by the ABC is that the Political Security Bureau, or the First Ministry Bureau, its operation and budget are quite big. And they will actually profile someone over the extended periods up to many years. In the case of one dissident in Australia, over the course of 6 years. And they have a large sum of money at their disposal. So they can do things like fake a persona, even create videos or a whole entire setup just to lure this one person. Of course, including spending money to hire someone as a creative director. And this type of influence and infiltration really extended around the world. It started back in the 1990s with the persecution of Falun Gong. So the CCP's extended system of transnational repression took shape as they wanted to silence these overseas dissidents from spreading the truth about the CCP. The bureau at which Eric worked at was also one that has changed and evolved over the years. With the expansion of Xi Jinping's need for total surveillance, as Eric said, they got increased funding and personnel expansion. Specifically because these dissidents mentioned were very prominent anti-Xi Jinping people, this is consistent with the current message that it's actually okay to criticize the CCP, but it's not okay to criticize Xi Jinping. They have operatives around the world. Nowadays, overseas agents are deployed in large numbers. We know about the CCP police stations, overseas fox hunt operations. They're all under the jurisdiction of this first bureau. In the UK recently, 3 spies on behalf of the Hong Kong government, they've been charged for their involvement in reporting pro-democracy protesters as well as infiltrating the police force. These stories really tell us that the CCP's claws are everywhere.